Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So, I've been playing this video off for a while because I wanted to try and figure out a way to make this ranking different, because I was just going to rank the DCEU movies eventually, but I've already did one for Black Adam, and I don't think I did one for Shazam because I thought it was too soon to do one. But I wanted to change this one from my previous one. And also, there's some movies added in. The two main ones that I've added in, obviously, I've added in Shazam and The Flash. But also, I have put in the two Burton Batmans, because obviously we're going to talk about Michael Keaton in The Flash. So, I'm very excited to get into that. So, yeah, I only add them in because Michael Keaton, that's the same character in The Flash than it is in the Burton Batmans. So that's the only reason why. So yeah, let's get into it. So in 16th place we have Aquaman. Now I'm actually really upset that I have this last place, because my friend Luke, who's been on the channel many times, he saw Aquaman in the theater and was like, "Dude, you gotta see this movie. This movie's so good." And I think he may have hyped it up for me a little bit too much. So when I watched it, I'm like, oh, there's actually some really cool fight scenes. This movie knows that it's ridiculous, but also there's a lot of stuff that made it bogged down. And I'm just like, what? So it's one of those things where you just like, I don't really know where to put it, because it's like, it knows what it is, it's being silly, and it knows what it is, but also there's this stuff that is just boring, and it doesn't really know what to do with them. So that's why I came up in 16th place, because I mainly just remember it. When I watched it, and I did that DCEU review series, it was quite boring then, and I haven't had the desire to rewatch it at all. So, number 15 for me is Wonder Woman 1984. Now, when I saw this in the theater, and I did do a review for it, but it was in a vlog. I did do a review for it, and I actually really liked it. I thought that there was some cool ideas in there for cool ideas for a villain, some cool stuff with like the Wish Stone and all that. And Kristen Wiig's character, I really liked her. Even though that was a bit odd for her to be given the cheetah powers. But I thought that was really cool of the flip of like her becoming Diana, and Diana getting Steve, and Diana losing her powers. I thought that was a really cool concept, and I just liked the movie for that, and I really liked the action scenes in it. So I thought that there was a lot of stuff in there that made this very redeemable, but the second time I watched it, I was like, this is better than Aquaman, but it's worse than every other DCEU movie, in my opinion. So I think that's why it kind of falls into 15, is because it's more rewatchable to me than Aquaman, but there's some cool ideas in it, but at the end of the day, it's just boring. Not necessarily a needless sequel, but it's just a little boring to me. So number 14 for me is The Suicide Squad, the James Gunn one. The only reason why, now, I'm not going to spoil how high the first Suicide Squad is, but the reason why I prefer the first one than this one is that this one kind of breaks the mold of the first one more than I want it to. But the big one is that, like, they set up in the first one, if Rick Flag or one of the leaders of that group die, like Rick Flag, that's meant to be keeping these villains in check, if he dies, you'll all die. Which, if you've seen the Suicide Squad, guess what? Rick Flag dies, and none of them die. So there's no stakes. The stake is Rick Flag being killed, but there's no stakes to, like, because he even says to them, I think to Thinker or whatever, him and Harley even say, even go through the rules of the first one, of like, if you disobey me, you die. If he dies, you die, type of thing. It goes through that whole speech again, and guess what? Everyone lives at the end of that movie. It's bonkers. I am just like, this movie's fun. It's a fun rated MA 15 plus in Australia superhero movie. But it's one of those things where you're just like, this movie breaks the mold of the first one that you never expected it to. So, but I like it more than a lot of... I like it a lot. I do like it. I think that there's just some things that hold it back and make me go like, why? So, jumping to the next one, number 13, we have Justice League, the theatrical cut. I think that this one is better than people think, but worse than the Snyder cut. Because this one actually changes to that lighthearted Justice League that you see in the animated series or the animated movies and cartoons and that sort of stuff, and in the comics. And less of that dark and gritty, even though I like the DCEU when it's dark and gritty. I think that there's a lot of things in there that make it really strong with the dark and gritty angle, but do like it switching up to the lightheartedness. That's why some of the lighthearted movies are further up towards my list, because it's like you see them changing tone. But yeah, I think that Justice League is really good. I forgive some of the flaws, like the Henry Cavill thing and stuff like that. But I think that there's a lot of good things in that movie. Like, I think that the line that they took out that they didn't have in the Snyder Cut, but they had in this one, when... And it's the exact same shot of Superman, like, flying down and about to punch Steppenwolf. And he goes like, "This guy's still bothering you?" That one is one of my favourite lines of the theatrical cut, is when he comes down and flies down and punches Steppenwolf as he's saying that, as he's flying down to him. I thought that was so cool, and I really like that. I think that there's a lot of things in the normal Justice League that are really redeemable, and I think that there's a lot of... And the Batman scene in the intro where it's taken out of the Snyder Cut as well, because they wanted to kind of change the stuff, which you could tell is a reshoot, because one, it's not in the Snyder Cut, and two, it has a Joss Whedon kind of feel. The opening with Batman, I thought was so bloody cool, where the point of that scene was for that the the parademons or whatever can sense fear, and Batman is doing... It's like you're seeing something out of Batman 1989 with Michael Keaton, but Ben Affleck's there and he's holding up crooks and that sort of stuff, and then I thought that was so cool, and that is something that I wanted to see from Ben. I wanted to see a scene like that from Ben Affleck's Batman, and we never got that until Justice League. And then we never see that sort of scene again. I thought that was really cool. And I think that the introduction of having 3 members not introduced until... Well, we have the Flash and Suicide Squad, we have Batman and Suicide Squad. So, we have 2 of those from Suicide Squad, then 3 of them with Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman in BVS. And then the other ones, really, Cyborg, Victor, and Arthur are really the only 2 that you get introduced in that movie. So I think it did a really good job at that. And I thought that it was great to switch up from the lighthearted tone. But you could tell that there are some forced jokes, like the whole thing where Flash lands on Wonder Woman's breast and that sort of stuff. And also, like the whole bit where Batman gets knocked out by Superman while you're having that evil Superman battle, and Batman's going like, "Oh, yeah, I'm definitely bleeding," which is a reference to the "question, do you bleed?" line from Batman vs Superman. So it's corny, but it's corny in a way that I don't mind it being. But And then number 12, you have Man of Steel. I actually really like Man of Steel. It's low on my DCEU ranking and my Superman ranking, but I actually do really like Man of Steel. The first time I watched it with Dad, I tried to watch it with Dad, and I was like, which is weird because you have a cool opening with Russell Crowe, body flying down and killing all these Kryptonians and stuff, and also undoing the plugs and stuff like that, and sending Kal-El off. I thought that was so cool. Watched it the second time, and I think that there was a lot of things in Man of Steel that I liked. I mean, I don't fall on that side of like, like, I get where people go for where it's like, body Superman should not kill. It's like, sure, but also, it's not really his fault. Like, you do kind of see his point, because it's like, he mainly causes body destroyed the destroyed city because Zod already has a bloody world engine that is already destroying the building. So that's not really Superman's fault. That's Zod's problem. And Superman's just fighting back. And Zod, when he hits Superman, that's Zod's problem where he's punching Superman. That's why he calls this kind of a 9-level event type thing. So it's not really Superman's fault. And then, but I do see the point that people make with the Park Kent scene where it's like, you can easily kill him from a tornado, and the whole thing of like, the reason why, like, he dies from a heart attack in the Christopher Reeve movies and the comics and that sort of stuff is because Clark needs to realize that he cannot save everyone, which he can save him from a tornado. So I do see their people's point when they make that. I'm like, sure, that I can give you that, but I think that there's a lot of things, which we'll talk about this a little later. It's further up than this. You guys already know that, but that's why I like Batman vs Superman, is because that you see all the ramifications of Man of Steel. So I think that's really, really cool. That's why I have Man of Steel at number 12. Number 11, I have Wonder Woman. Now I like Wonder Woman. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's as good as people make it out to be. I think that there's more memorable stuff in Wonder Woman 1984 than the first Wonder Woman, but I do think the first Wonder Woman is a better film and a better story and that sort of stuff than 84, but I do think that I think that the villain is really weak in the first Wonder Woman, and I think that the final battle is super CGI, even though that all of the rest of the film, even though that there's some CGI, the No Man's Land scene is a way better action scene than the last action scene, the Thunder and Lightning, and she does that. That's a very weak thing, in my opinion. But I think that there's a lot of good stuff with Chris Pine and Gal Gadot. I think that Patty Jenkins directs the shit out of that movie. And I think it's so good. I think it's one of those films that it's like, you watch it and you're like, this is a really, really good movie. But there's also a part of you that's like, it's kind of a weak final battle. Even though that there's really good things in the final battle, I think that it's kind of weak. So that's why it doesn't make my top 10. But reaching into my top 10, these are the films that I'll watch again and I absolutely adore. So there's only, at my number 10, it's the only one that I give 3.5 in my top 10. Other than that, it's all 4-star to 4.5 to 5-star. Number 10 for me is Black Adam. I actually really like Black Adam. I'm a big Rock fan. The Rock is one of my favourite actors of all time. I think he's my second favourite actor behind Jim Carrey. So, I love The Rock. Anything with The Rock, you put The Rock in something, I'm going to watch it. And let alone putting him in a DC movie that he's been interested in playing since like 2007 or 9 or something. Finally seeing it, it's like, wow. The Rock owns this character. He gets the gravitas of this character. And it's so interesting to see that movie and go like, wow, I can't wait to see, because like, before James Gunn decided to reboot the DC universe, I think that this movie hold potential for the DC Universe to come. Because I think that he would have been a really good Thanos villain. Even though that you do kind of see the good side at the end of that movie, I think that there was an easy chance for him to turn because of Amanda Waller and that sort of stuff appearing in that movie. But I think that there's a lot of stuff in that movie that we were going in one direction for the DC Universe, and then James Gunn came in. And I love James Gunn. I think that James Gunn is I think he's one of the best directors ever. And one of my favourites. Because he wrote the Scooby-Doo movies, 1 and 2. He did the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which I love. And also, I do like the Suicide Squad. But, because I didn't mind James Gunn coming in, I don't want to get in a whole rant. But, when James Gunn got his hands on, I was like, yes. He can have a very clear vision, let's go. But, I turned off when I heard that he was like, oh, we're not keeping Ben Affleck Batman, we're getting rid of Cavill Superman, which, because Black Adam set Cavill coming up, you see the post-credit scene and you're like, this is the future of the DCEU, Cavill's here, he's back, he has a new suit, he has I can't do it with my hair, but he has the curl, he is smiling more, and we were going to get a Man of Steel 2, that people were likes to see, and then after that movie, The Rock was fired from James Gunn, Cavill was fired, bloody Affleck was fired. Well, Affleck didn't really want to do it anymore, so I can't get that one. But and then you also had all these different actors that were starting to do these projects, and the only things that he's keeping are going to be John Cena's Peacemaker and Idris Elba and Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, which I really hope. And I hope he keeps Zachary Levi. But all the ones, Batman is my favourite DC superhero ever. And I was really angry at James Gunn for recasting Ben Affleck. Even though I'm open for a new Batman, there would have been a way to do still continue the DCEU, but not have Ben Affleck's Batman. Even if we brought in, Terry McGinnis or something like that. But not to get on a ramble, but I do like Black Adam. I think Black Adam had a promise for what the DCEU would have been before we got screwed up with the DCU. But I do really like Black Adam. Number 9 for me is the first Suicide Squad. Now, part of this is my theater experience, and also it's because I don't think it's as bad as people think. I saw this with my cousin, and I was like, okay, I don't know what to expect. The trailer looks really good, because I didn't want to see. I think I was too young to see Man of Steel. I remember seeing a lot of the trailers because they would advertise it a crap ton, and they even had an interview with Henry Cavill on ABC3 here in Australia, and I was like, yes. And I wasn't a big Superman fan, but I was interested. I was even at a young age interested in learning about filmmaking, so I was like, yes, I'm seeing something. So that was one of the first times that I remember seeing an interview that big. And then I don't think I saw anything for Batman vs Superman, and I don't know if I didn't want to see it or I wasn't allowed to see it. I don't think I was allowed to see it, but for some reason I was allowed to see Suicide Squad. I think I did see some trailers with Batman in it for Suicide Squad, but that didn't. I was probably going to see it no matter what, just to see what it was like. And I actually ended up really liking Suicide Squad. Obviously the carry-outs were Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn is the Harley Quinn for me. I don't think that Lady Gaga can even top it. Even though I'm excited for Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn in that kind of darker take. And even though I do love musicals, I don't think the Joker 2 relationship of Joker and Harley Quinn can touch the interesting twist of the relationship that there is in Suicide Squad 1. I think that Suicide Squad 1 has the most interesting thing in the whole DCEU because of the relationship between Harley Quinn and Joker. And except for Joker abusing her, apparently, in the air cut that I do want to see, he has more of that kind of try to kill her type thing. But the whole thing where he's gone, where is she? I think that was so interesting that in the theatrical cut, he doesn't want to kill her. And he actually does love Harley. But when you see the extended cut, which I haven't seen, but I do have, but I have seen the scene where, like, Harley Quinn's, like, trying to confess her love to Joker on the highway, and he's like, oh, da, 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 da. Like, you do see that he tries to push her away. I think that the theatrical version had an interesting twist of, like, we want to try and see what would happen if Joker actually does love Harley and doesn't want to kill her type thing. And I actually did like Will Smith's Deadshot. I think that he was great in it. I think that it was messy, but I don't think... When I saw it in 2016, the messiness didn't really click with me. It made me click that I was like, this is actually I'm actually having a fun time watching this movie. And I think that the Batman scenes were great, like him locking up Deadshot, him like on the Batmobile chase with Joker and Harley was so cool. I loved that. I also liked El Diablo. I think he was cool. I think that a lot of the characters of villains were really, really cool. I love seeing the Flash scene for as quick as you see him, and knocks out Captain Boomerang. I thought that was so cool. And I think that there was a lot of potential in Suicide Squad that would have built out the whole lore of the DCEU. But then, number 8 for me, of course, we have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Now, I was really excited for this movie because I loved the first Shazam. A little later I'm going to tell you how much I love it. But I loved the first Shazam, so I was really excited to see the sequel. And then when I heard the reviews, because America and some other parts of the world get some of these movies early before us in Australia. So I'm literally watching it, ready to watch it with my mate Luke, because that's who I saw it with. And I was like, okay, I'm nervous. If this is bad, I don't know what to do. But I watched it, I'm like, this is actually really good. I don't see why people don't really like it. But I think that the villains of Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, and Rachel Zegler, god damn it. But I think that they were really good villains. I think that it was such an interesting switch up from the first Shazam, where you had oh my god, I can't remember his name. He's a pretty not a forgettable villain, but I think he's one of the weaker DCEU villains, really. But I think that it was really, really cool to see that, and the family dynamics was really, really cool, and the gags with Wonder Woman was really, really cool. I love seeing Wonder Woman, because I think that this was the year of them trying to actually connect the DCEU. Because they actually try to connect Wonder Woman. They try to connect Wonder Woman. They connected Batman and Superman and Keaton and that sort of stuff, and Aquaman. It felt like a connected universe because of this year, and even last year with Black Adam. I thought that this was the year of connectivity, of this is where we're going forward before the screw up. But I think that this movie is really, really good. I love Zachary Levi as Shazam, and I hope that James Gunn keeps him. And I think that this movie is so underrated. I think it's one of the more underrated comic book movies because people didn't really like most of the MCU movies up until now. So I think that might have been the reason. It's because MCU has been putting out... Like, for me, I like the stuff that they're putting out at the moment, but I think everyone just did like I don't know. They didn't like Ant-Man Quantumania, so they saw Shazam and was like, oh, this is actually crap, so let's just crap on it. But I don't feel that way. But then, in number 7th place, we have Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. I do have the theatrical cut because I saw the Ultimate Edition once and I liked it, but I didn't love it. I like both cuts, but I liked the theatrical cut a little better because I thought it was faster paced and more entertaining. But I do like the Ultimate Edition. But I think that there was a lot of stuff in Batman vs. Superman that was really, really good, that dealt with the ramifications of Man of Steel. And I thought that there was really, really good stuff in Batman vs. Superman. I think we get the best Batman in Ben Affleck in that movie. I think that, I think obviously we get introduced to Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in that movie, which I thought was great. I love Henry Cavill as Superman in that movie and him dealing with the ramifications of Man of Steel, which you actually see that in the opening of this movie. And I think that there was a lot of stuff of what they did with Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel that make me really like this one more than Man of Steel. And also, I'm just a sucker for Batman. You put Batman in anything and I'm probably gonna like it. So I think that there's a lot of great stuff in BVS. I think that it's some of the most, we get the best Batsuit. Easily. One of the best Batsuits, at least. Behind Michael Keaton's return suit. But I loved BVS. I think that it was so good and so underrated that it's ridiculous. Then number 6 for me, we have Zack Snyder's Justice League. When I watched the theatrical cut, because back when I was doing my DCEU reviews, I did a video version for YouTube and I did a Letterboxd version where I would type a review out of my thoughts right after the movie. And when I watched the theatrical cut, I was like, I'm concerned about watching the Snyder cut now because I didn't love this film, but I actually had a lot of fun watching this. And because the Snyder cut's 4 hours, I think that that's going to be an issue for me when I'm watching it. But when I watched it, I was like, no, this is actually not a problem for me. I actually do really, really like this movie. I think that's so fun. I think it's very, very, very good. And I think that's one of those things too where it's like, you watch it and you're just like, this movie's actually really good. It's strong. It has a lot of things. We get introduced to the Martian Manhunter. It sets up more, which makes me even sadder than I was that we're not getting Snyder's vision, or even a version of Snyder's vision, or a continuation at least, because even though that Birds of Prey and Shazam and stuff weren't directed by Snyder, they were still a continuation of that universe. So, and the whole thing of having Joker in there and stuff like that, I thought it was so cool seeing Jared Leto interact with Batman, even though that, because they never talked at this point. They only really had a fight, and it was a stunt double for Batman in Suicide Squad. So I was excited to see the whole thing of going like, wow, you don't bring a young boy to do a man's job. And Batman basically doing, I don't know why, because people make it such a deal of it, going like, oh, he swore, big whoop. But I actually realized the line of make no fucking mistake, I will fucking kill you. I think that was so cool. Having Affleck interact with Leto was so cool, and I loved that. I thought that it was one of the best things in that movie, even though that I loved so many moments in that movie. The fight scenes were good, and there were so many scenes that weren't in the theatrical cut. I thought it was so cool. I loved it. So, I really love the Snyder Cut. I think that it's the Justice League movie. I don't think anything could top it. Now, last 4-star, at number 5, we have Batman 1989. Now, I actually do really love the Keaton Batmans. Batman 1989 is so good. It's such an iconic film, which is one of the reasons why it's so high. And it's also because I watch it, the first time I watched it, I was like, I don't think this is as good as people think it is. But then when as I rewatch all these movies, I think that it's so good. Like, it's iconic. It's also the whole thing of, like, Michael Keaton's Batman is the Batman for me. So, seeing him as Batman in those two movies was like, yes. And it was like, even though that is a bit silly that he can't really turn his head and stuff like that, and the suit in that movie is a bit more of a blue kind of tint to it, even more so than Returns, because Returns goes to the black kind of feel of the suit, and a little bit more of the slickness of the bat suit for me. I think that 89 is such a classic film, and you gotta have it high, no matter what. And I don't think... There are some people that think that it's overrated. I don't think it's overrated, because one, it's such a classic, and two, it's what made Batman Batman. If you didn't make like Batman 89 and Batman Returns, you wouldn't have gotten the Dark Knight trilogy. Because even though that you did get the Dark Knight trilogy, you could say that we got the Dark Knight trilogy because of Batman and Robin and stuff like that. If these movies didn't exist and those were the only two movies, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, you would be like, man, we had a terrible start. But we had a very good start with the Burn Batmans, and then a middle section where it was like, I love Batman Forever and Batman and Robin because of my childhood and stuff like that. More so Batman and Robin than Batman Forever. Batman Forever I love because I'm a big Jim Carrey fan. I love his Riddler and that sort of stuff. But I think that there's a lot of things in Batman 89 that are just very good, and I love Jack Nicholson's portrayal of the Joker. I like the idea of the backstory, even though that's not really the Joker. You could go like, yeah, but you know what? This was Batman. And it was one of those things where I was like, what are you going to do? This movie is what Batman was like for that era. It's your dark and greenness. If you don't like Burton, sure, that's a different conversation. But you see, I think half of the thing is that I'm a big Burton fan because of these Batman movies. So I love the Burton Batman movies. I also love his Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I love there's a lot of films I adore of his. At some point I should do a Tim Burton ranking. But yes, I love the Burton Batman movies. Especially the first one. The first one's so good. Now, number 4 for me is The Flash. The reason why I'm doing this video. I love this movie. This is a 4.5 star movie for me. I love this movie. I think it's so good. I think that the stuff with the actor, Ezra Miller, like, yeah, sure, but like, you gotta look past that for this movie. And just go like, even though it's a bit odd with the CG, you gotta go like, this is bloody great. And also, even though that a lot of people that I've seen reactions to this movie, because I love that movie that much. But when you see, like, even though that they do complain about the CGI, they get emotional when they see Christopher Reeve coming down with Helen Slater as Supergirl. They also get emotional seeing Adam West's Batman, even though that you don't really get a good shot of him because it's in one of those spinny earth things. Like, and also people get shocked when they see Nick Cage's Superman. It's so good, and it's like, and for the people like me that have seen, like, I haven't seen the documentary, but I knew about that movie. I was like, oh my god, and my dad was like, that cameo doesn't fit this movie. And you should see that review on the podcast if you want his source on The Flash. But seeing Michael Keaton as Batman was so cool. I was like, yes! And the way that they used the themes and stuff like that, I thought was so cool. Seeing the Batwing in action in modern day was actually not cringy at all. Even though that I don't find the Batwing cringe in the original movie, I do think because of the way films were made back then, it is kind of noticeable that it's like, that's a miniature, that's a set, that's a miniature, that's a set. The way they cut together type thing. But I think it's so good, and Ezra Miller is really good at playing a teenager. I don't think that the young version is as bad as people think. I think that it's very, very good, and I just loved him as the Flash. And also, seeing Supergirl, our full movie version of Supergirl, I actually really like Sasha Calle more than I thought I would, because I'm a Melissa Benoist boy. Like, I love her as Supergirl. I think that when I think of Supergirl, I think of her, because you actually get like the blonde hair and stuff like that. But because they decided to make the because they want Sasha Calle to cut her hair and make it shorter and have black hair, I think that she wouldn't have looked that bad with the long hair and the blonde hair. I don't think she would have looked that bad. But the way they did, I actually really liked it. I actually don't mind the suit. The suit, even though that's way different from the comic version, I actually do really like the suit of Supergirl in this movie, and I think that's really, really cool to have our movie version of Supergirl. And also, I never thought that we would get 2 Wonder Woman cameos in this movie. In this year. We got Shazam! Fury of the Gods Wonder Woman, and then we have her in The Flash, which is just a quick cameo, but it's so cool. It's like, sorry I'm late. And her going, what did she say? Oh, nice suit, Flash. It's like, and thank you for saving me, or you're welcome, or whatever. To Batman. And also, Ben Affleck's Batman was great. I love seeing Ben Affleck's Batman for one last time. Even though that is a little hot in the face. But I do love the suit. The idea of the suit is really cool. Even though I love the whole multiverse line for The Flash, I wish they actually made Affleck's Batman the blue, like, Batman. Because they just did it black. And I don't like that. But I think that he was really, really good in this movie for the short time that he was in there for. I love seeing George Clooney's cameo. That was so good. Wish we had a Val Kilmer one, but that would have been hard because of his problem at the moment. But I love The Flash. I think The Flash is so cool. Now, number 3 for me is Birds of Prey. I actually really, really love Birds of Prey. I think that Birds of Prey is the movie that I saw it before COVID hit. And I actually really, really liked it. I loved seeing Harley and seeing Margot Robbie get her own film, but also introducing the Birds of Prey as well, and getting a very Deadpool kind of Harley Quinn movie, which I think that it will be fun to see a movie like that where it's Harley Quinn and Deadpool. I think that you could do so much potential with that, but it's not going to happen. But I do love the whole thing of Harley Quinn getting an MA movie, and also just beating crooks up and being the Deadpool character of Birds of Prey and that sort of stuff. And I just love Margot Robbie's version of Harley Quinn, and I even like her suit in this movie, not the one with like the pom-poms or whatever down the side or whatever. I don't mind the one with the white t-shirt, but I love the Final Battle suit, the gold suit. I didn't like that suit in the, when I saw it in the trailers. I was like, why did you change? Why does she have so many costume changes? Couldn't you just keep her in the Suicide Squad suit? Because I actually really like that Suicide Squad suit. But I have a poster of, like, off camera, I have a poster of Birds of Prey, and it's her with all the Birds of Prey, but she's wearing that gold suit. And every time I look at that, and even every time when I watch the movie, especially that final battle bit, where she's in that suit. I'm like, I actually do really love that suit for Harley. I actually do really like it. So, I think I actually do really like the gold suit, and I do love Birds of Prey, so... And then, we gotta go through these 2 last movies, so... Here we go. Number 2 for me is Batman Returns. I love Batman Returns. I think that they nailed the Batman suit in this movie. I think that the Batman suit in this movie is better than the 89 suit. Even though that is a bit silly that he needs to, like, tilt his full body forward to duck. I think that, the look of that suit is so cool, especially the helmet and that sort of stuff. I think that is so cool. And I love Dana DeVito's Penguin. I'll show you my first flipper trick. I love his Penguin. I think it's so good. And also, Michelle Pfeiffer. If you want to talk about what 15-year-old Jack or whatever had a crush on, it was Catwoman. Mainly because of Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. And, like, for some reason that made me fall in love with Black Cat, because she's basically a Spider-Man version of Catwoman. And for some reason, Catwoman especially made me like black leather. Because, like, it also didn't help that I was a big fan of Grease, and I loved Sandy at the end of Grease, where she has the black tights. I think that those 3 characters, especially those 2, Sandy and Catwoman, made me like black leather on females, which I find really, really funny. But I love Batman Returns. I think that you get the best Batman in that in Michael Keaton. I think you get the best Penguin in Dana DeVito. I think you get the best Catwoman in Michelle Pfeiffer. I think that they were fantastic. I loved them. And then I think that Burton's direction for those movies were really, really good. And I actually love them more than... Like, I saw 89 later. But Returns and Robin are the 2 that would play on Channel Go repeatedly. I love Batman Returns, maybe because of my introduction to Batman, but also I think that we were just on such a good path with Returns before they changed it to the Schumacher movies, even though I do love those movies. But my ranking for them easily goes Returns, 89, Forever, and Robin. Even though I do love Robin, I think that it's a little cheesy. But I love Returns. Returns is so good. It's my favourite Batman movie, and one of my favourite movies of all time, and favourite comic book movies. So, the number 1 for me is, you guys have been waiting for it, Shazam! And guys, I kid you not, I watched this movie, like a month or so ago, and my dad wanted me to stop watching it because we had to do coursework. But every time I watch that movie, maybe except for the opening, because the opening is a bit dark, and I love the opening, but I think that it doesn't really fit with the point I'm trying to make. Every time I watch it, I laugh, I have a huge smile on my face, and I love it. It's much like... I think most of DCEU puts a smile on my face. Everything from Fury of the... Oh, well, I guess even Black Adam in the first Suicide Squad. Anything in my top 10 puts a smile on my face, but Returns and Shazam 1 get me smiling more than I would have thought, because I love Shazam and I love Zachary Levi. I grew up with Zachary Levi. I saw Alvin and the Chipmunks 2 I don't know how many times. I've seen Tangled by that point. I think that there's some other movies that he was in. I loved the MCU, and Ragnarok came out before Shazam. So I've seen him in that, even though I didn't realise that was him. It wasn't until I saw Dark World that I was like, oh, that is Zachary Levi. Jeez. But he was going to be in the first Thor, apparently. But, and this is the MCU, but he was going to be in the first Thor, but scheduling-wise, he couldn't do it. So, he was already in the MCU. And then, he was, apparently, interesting fact, he was going to be Star-Lord. Which I thought that, I actually think that that's so interesting. I think that's so interesting. Probably not the right fit for Zachary Levi, but I do love him as a jokey character, whether if it's Flynn Rider or Toby in the Squeakle and Shazam. I think that there's a lot of things that Zachary Levi does that is so good. Guys, thank you for watching. That was a long video. I ran for quite a bit, but I love the DCEU. I think that's so underrated. So guys, please hit the like button down below if you haven't already. Hit subscribe, also hit the little bell icon to get notified of future videos that I make, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.
Hey there. Subscribe to my channel. And also press this bell icon.